Okay, environmental commitments. It's one of my favorite topics, so how many people can say that's one of their favorite topics? Raise your hand proudly for those that can say that. Okay, we have at least 3 people being honest. Okay, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, right before break for lunch, is that coming out from growing up in Missouri on a farm and basically shooting all the endangered species out there, I guess, over my early years and not knowing that as I moved into highways and construction, I've learned to pay attention to butterfly monarchs, bats, toads, in reality a lot of different animals for Mother Nature. And the reality is for federal highways as far as regs, if you don't address NEPA, what does that do to your project? You will have no project. Okay, so the task is we know what we identify the criteria, the species, harass, harm, ideally don't kill, that but the resource agencies, what I have seen, especially out on the West Coast, is that they're very big into reading the black and white associated with those particular species. So the biggest thing I had tried to do over the years was get the endangered species group to be more aware of constructability issues that can affect the cost and time for the project. So that's sort of my theme with the next few slides I'm going to show you. So, wait a minute. So as far as what's happening out here environmentally with your resource agencies, let's say endangered species, how would you say the resource agencies are working with you? Are they pretty, are they okay to work with? Are they so-so or in the tank? How many would say, hey, they're okay, within reason? Okay, within reason, okay. Okay, well, let's go one thing, let's make it easier. How many like working with resource agencies? Okay. Okay, how many would say it's part of business and it's okay to a point? Well, okay. How many would say it's in the tank and God help us? Okay. All right. Well, here, the reason I asked, my quick environmental story is down along the Mexico border, south of San Diego. We go out there on day in March. And at that time of the day, or early morning, it's I pull out on the project with the construction engineer. And God, there's like 10 or 15 other trucks out there right where we pulled up, and it's right where our orange fencing is for the project. And I said, God, what's all the commotion? Are they there to see me, or what's the deal? Well, about that time, one of the leaders for all the truckers gets out of his rig. They all go grab their shotguns, and they're all lining up. I'm going like, what is it, like a firing squad? They said, no, today is the first day of dove season. So they pulled down the orange fence, which had protected the doves during fall and all the way up till March, and they went out and flushed out the doves, and guess what happened? There were no more doves. So here we spent 6 months of shutting down the contractor in that area for doves protection. I have that happens, it's just one of my stories, and I'm sure that doesn't happen here, so, okay. Again, something to think about as you tie into your progress schedules. Okay, as far as why is environmental important? Well, this figure is just trying to show you we have our PS&E, plan specification estimate, but again, recognize NEPA as far as federal highways is a major player milestone in the process. And then eventually Rose ties in with the pre-award / post-award process to the point that the environmental commitments shall be included into the final contract plans and eventually put in temporary and permanently into the final construction project. Here's a slide that Jerry mentioned I was going to show you. So what jumps out at you on that slide? Anything? Here, 1970, it's sort of like the stock market when we're going good. What happened in 1970? The hippies grew up. Okay, so December 1969, early 1970 is when National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, got made into law. So from this slide, what do you see happen since then? There's been a lot of environmental advancement and particularities provided to Mother Nature type themes. So it's just recognizing that over time, with a design builder, does a design builder need to know that? Absolutely. Will it affect a design builder's project? Absolutely. Will it affect their schedule? Probably more than they wish, but yes, they do. So again, it's just trying to give you a flavor for all the different environmental requirements that have kicked in, which then if you swing it around, will that affect the contractor's costs and time? Absolutely. So again, if it's important to you, that's the kind of stuff you gotta maybe try to raise the ante a little bit up into your RFQ, RFP, technical proposals, whatever. Again, if you want it, and that's important to you, you need to highlight that to a level of reasonableness. Don't necessarily gold-plated, but make sure you've hopefully reduced the risk to your satisfaction. Okay, so anybody how many people had seen that slide before? Okay, good. Got a few of them. Okay, so we go, why commitments? Anybody want to give me a thought on, besides what I've been saying as far as why we're having commitments?
Let the contractors know how to stay within the environmental boundaries.
There you go. Stay within environmental boundaries, because if you don't stay within environmental boundaries, what can happen?
At best, big fines.
Here you can have fines, you can have shutdown. If you're a 404 violation, depending on how bad you do it, the Corps cannot give you may not want to give you the permit. Just so you know, EPA can trump the Corps, or even though the Corps give you the permit, the EPA can come in and waive trump the permit to where they jerk the permit to the point a consent decree can kick in, which will shut down the federal aid program. So as far as stormwater, that's a good example of they need to pay attention. Okay, any other thoughts on the positives of why we have commitments? Okay. Okay, it's part of the NEPA process. You need it for construction funding for such items. If NEPA is invoked due to federal highways funding and or approval action, just so you know, a lot of times everybody ties federal, NEPA is required only for funding action. It's actually funding action and or approval action. And that's where you need to talk with the division as far as what an approval difference between an approval action versus a funding action. Okay, as far as commitments, I just pulled out a couple sites, what's in our 23 CFR 635 as far as commitments. Just to give you a flavor, try to get attention here. So how long do you think that's been in the CFR? Code of Federal Regulations. Here, they go back to NEPA, back in the early 70s. So I guess here, quick question, how many people can say they've ever read this? Hopefully in federal highways, most of it, maybe a few in the state, which then your manuals and that should reflect something similar. Okay, yeah, so the idea, it's been around a long time. It's always been a requirement. So again, I want to emphasize to you that NEPA can be the death stake to your project. However, you need to build rapport coordination with the resource agencies. Ideally, consider having them put some boots on, hard hat, vest, safety apparel, take them out for your constructability issues to help get them over that book theory lesson, give them some on-the-ground knowledge. That's where the big gap is, from what I've seen. Would you guys say that your resource agencies have ground knowledge or constructability knowledge? Okay, so we've known about it, the way I look at it, we've known about it for almost 50 years now, and we still haven't necessarily tackled the problem. So it's up to you to try to figure out how to make that work for you. Okay, a little bit more on commitments. Notice, and this is the big one, 77211G, plans and specs will not be approved by federal highways unless those noise abatement measures, which are reasonable, feasible, are incorporated. So you guys have any noise wall issues? Okay, So again, it's NEPA, it doesn't come up all the time, but again, just to show you, not only stormwater, other NEPA commitments, noise is also a avoid, minimize, mitigate accordingly, and this is how statutory it is as far as federal highways. Okay, so would you say this would be a picture of TDOT working with the resource agencies in their coordination? Okay, any particular trends that you're having with the resource agencies that maybe need to get to flesh out or discussed here so everybody can share openly and candidly? Or do we have time for that and that's like a happy hour thing? Okay, again, just trying to point out, we're all trying to work on the same track. We always know the train will wobble, but we don't want it to wobble off the track, but if you don't even have a track connected, you're in a world of hurt. So again, with design build, you know where the light is at the end of the tunnel, but you gotta help get that, make sure that track to get there is somewhat greased to get over those humps.